Welcome to A&A Tutorials. In this tutorial we're going to use a stainless steel ring to fuse glass. We could do a pot melt in the ring, or we could just place glass in there in various ways and let it melt. We're going to do the latter, so let's take a look at the ring and how we'll use it. I happen to pick up a stainless steel motor mount from a marine store, West Marine actually, and the reason that I like this is that it is 3/4 inches thick, which will give me plenty of thickness to do any glass that I want to do. So I'll use this and we'll get started. Our next step is to begin covering the ring with strips of 1/32 fiber paper. We've cut the strips 3/4 inches wide, and now our job will be to begin gluing them with Elmer's glue around the inside of the ring. So we'll get started with that. The ring is finished, all but one section. You can see we have the 1/32 fiber paper around it. Now we need to match very carefully so that we get an exact fit of where we're going to cut off the last piece so that it will fit correctly. The best idea is to cut it off a little bit longer than you need so that you'll be able to trim it if you need to. So let's take a look. We'll put it into there, and it's just slightly bigger than we need, so we'll take a little piece off of this end. Try it again. Looks like that'll be a perfect fit. So we'll glue that up, put that on, and our ring will be ready to use. I've cut 2 pieces of black glass to work as a base inside the ring, and on top of it I've put some pieces of yellow, canary yellow I believe it is, and also some pieces that came off a pattern bar that I made. So just pieces of pattern bar, and we're going to just melt this down and make a soup out of this and see how that turns out. So a little bit different than a pot melt, but all right, we'll take a look and see what the finished fuse looks like. And we'll zoom in a little bit here. Looks like the colors have come out pretty well. Seems to have stayed in the circle well, and they're all pretty flat. I'll take it out and clean it up, and we'll take a little closer look at the plate. See the thickness. Colors came out nice. It is very smooth, so that worked well. And now the next job will be to slump this into a bowl mold. So we'll go there and do that next. Alright, our next step is to pick a mold that we want to use. I've decided to go ahead and use this round mold. It's actually a little bigger than what I need, but since it's symmetric, I can put a plate in here. We'll cover this, and we'll just make a little smaller dish out of it. So that's what we'll use for a mold, and we'll get ready to slump it now. To slump the bowl, so we put the glass over the bowl, and we want to make sure we get it centered as close as possible. There's no way to guarantee that your glass won't slide off one side and leave you an uneven bowl when you're done, but the best way is to make sure that it's centered, and that's your best chance that it'll come out looking right in the end. Also, we want to give you the slumping temperature, so we'll give you that in the next step, and then we'll look at and see what we ended up with. We're going to try a fairly straightforward slump schedule without a lot of in-between steps. 300 degrees per hour to 1150, hold it for 25 so it soaks there. Fast as possible to 1350, we'll hold it for 30 minutes hoping to finish the slump. Then we'll go as fast as possible to 960 and hold it for 2 hours so that it anneals the glass. That'll finish up our step, and we'll take a look and see how it looks. This time we're going to show you a real failure. Take a look at the plate here. We'll zoom in so you can see it a little better. What's happened is we did not, two things actually. We did not clean the holes in the bottom of the mold first, and we fired it hot. It was a little hot for slumping. Let me lift this up so you can see what I'm talking about in terms of the holes. It didn't stick, that's fine. But the actual holes in the underneath are not clear all the way through. That let bubbles form underneath, and when the bubbles form they push up, push the glass away, and that ruined a nice dish. Well, that turned out to be a real disaster. I debated whether I should just make another new plate and show you the nice new finished plate, or leave it the way it was, and I think maybe you can learn something from leaving it the way it was. No matter how many years you've been doing glass, you can get a little sloppy and you can make mistakes, and it'll happen to everybody. But they're a way to continue to learn, and so you can see that I need to continue to learn also. Make a couple suggestions. I held the temperature far too long at that, the hold time was far too long for that temperature. I need to either drop the temperature or decrease the hold time considerably. But the biggest mistake I made was I walked away from the kiln. When slumping, I have a glass window and I could look in and see when it's slumped. But this is Memorial Day weekend and I had a 2-day excursion to see some friends. And so I just left the kiln on and took off and went to see the friends. And that's what happened. Had I been there and been watching and checking through the window as it slumped, I could have prevented what happened. So that's a lesson that's worth learning. Let me add a couple other comments about making plates like this. When you have your plate fused and it's round and before you slump it, there's a number of things you can do to change the design on the plate a little bit. You can saw some scallops around the edges of the plate before you slump it. Another thing you can do is if you have some little frit castings or small pieces that you want to incorporate with your design, you can set them around the edge of the plate or on the plate, and at the slumping temperatures they'll tack just fine to the glass, which will give you some other designs on there. Another idea, if you're not going to actually use the plate to hold materials and things, you can cut holes in the plate. You can drill holes, you can cut designs, etc., and then slump it and hang it on your wall, and you'll have a plate that's used for designs. So there's some other ideas. Hope that you learned something from this lesson, and we'll see you at the next tutorial.